In this class, we'll discuss about iron deficiency anemia. This is a very important topic. Iron deficiency anemia is the most common type of anemia in India and also worldwide. Everywhere it is very common. It develops when the body iron stores are depleted along with circulating iron stores, those are also depleted, and there is insufficient iron available to make RBCs. The recommended dietary allowance for iron in menstruating women is 3 mg per day. In adult men and postmenopausal women, it is 1 mg per day. This is different from the dosage of the tablets, iron tablets, because all of the tablet is not going to be absorbed, right? This much should be absorbed by the body. The sources of iron include both vegetarian and non-vegetarian food. So that is why people having exclusively vegetarian food will not have deficiency unless they are eating very less. Good sources include meat, eggs, and leafy vegetables. We had seen about the recommended dietary allowance of iron, right? So why is it that iron has to be replenished in diet? The reason for that is because iron loss is going on in the body. In males, it is due to the loss of epithelial cells of the gastrointestinal tract. In females, it is mainly because of menstrual blood loss. Let us now learn about the absorption of iron in a few slides. The site where iron is absorbed is mainly duodenum and jejunum. So gastrointestinal tract, if you trace, it is basically from the oral cavity to the esophagus, from esophagus to the stomach, then duodenum, then jejunum. So the sites here which are important for iron absorption are duodenum and jejunum. Maximum absorption of iron occurs in the gastroduodenal junction, which is the junction between stomach and duodenum. For absorption, the iron has to be in ferrous form. In food, if at all there is a ferric form of iron, then that has to be converted to the ferrous form. That conversion is done by an enzyme known as ferric reductase enzyme. Once iron is converted into the ferrous form, the brush border of the epithelial cells of the gastrointestinal tract, they internalize iron through one channel known as divalent metallic transporter. Now the iron is within the cytoplasm of the epithelial cells of the gastrointestinal tract. From here onwards, the iron can actually be stored in the cytoplasm as ferritin, or it can be sent to the transport form which is called transferrin. The transport form transferrin then goes to the bone marrow, and in the bone marrow the iron is utilized to form RBCs. This is the whole process we spoke about. First, you see that iron is absorbed in its ferrous form into the intestinal cell. In intestinal cell, either it can become transferrin, go to the bone marrow and get incorporated by erythroblasts to form RBCs, which then die in the hands of macrophages. Then again it becomes hemosiderin, comes to plasma, or within the intestinal cell itself, iron can be stored in the form of ferritin. Since there is a storage of ferritin within the intestinal epithelial cells, any injury to the intestinal epithelium which leads to loss of these cells will give rise to iron loss. Coming to the storage of iron, iron can be stored in the body in two forms basically. The first is called hemosiderin, which is present within the cytoplasm of the macrophages in the bone marrow. Next is ferritin, which is water soluble and can be detected in various locations. Let us try to remember a few causes of this iron deficiency anemia. If there is iron deficiency, then it could either be reduced intake of iron, or reduced absorption of iron, or increased loss of iron, or increased demand for iron. Let us see examples for all these things. Inadequate dietary intake is reduced intake of iron. Basically, the person is not eating properly. Second is defective absorption. Iron, as you know, is absorbed in duodenum and jejunum. If at all there is a surgical resection of these parts, there could be a deficiency of iron. One more thing is, acid in the stomach is essential for iron absorption. So if stomach is partially resected, then also that can lead to iron deficiency. Third one is excessive loss of iron. Iron, as you know, is lost from the loss of epithelial cells of the gastrointestinal tract. So if there are any diseases which affect the epithelium of the gastrointestinal tract, for example, peptic ulcer disease, in which duodenum and stomach can be affected, then that can give rise to increased loss of iron. Finally, we have increased requirement of iron, which is seen in either a growing age or in pregnant ladies. Let us now see how this iron deficiency state progresses. Initially, there is a negative iron balance or iron depletion. Here what happens is, the body is unable to replenish iron to balance whatever is lost. Second stage is iron deficient erythropoiesis. Here what happens is, RBC synthesis is occurring when there is iron deficiency. The last stage is that of frank iron deficiency anemia, where you get all the manifestations of iron deficiency anemia. These are the steps that occur during those three stages. First, there is depletion of storage form of iron. Then there is a decrease in the transport form of iron. Thirdly, there is normocytic normochromic type of an anemia. Fourthly, there is a microcytic anemia. And finally, microcytic hypochromic anemia. I'll explain to you the laboratory parameters of measuring various forms of iron. Firstly, bone marrow iron stores, self-explanatory. These are basically the hemosiderin droplets found in the cytoplasm of macrophages in bone marrow. Secondly, there is ferritin. In serum, this ferritin can be measured. This again is a storage form of iron. Thirdly, there is total iron binding capacity. So what this conveys is affinity of tissue to bind iron. So if there is low iron, then obviously the affinity is high. Fourthly, there is free erythrocyte protoporphyrin. So protoporphyrin plus iron normally gives hemoglobin, right? So if iron is less, then free protoporphyrin will increase. Fifthly, there is transferrin saturation. So transferrin is the storage form of iron. If iron is reduced, then the saturation is less. Then there is hemoglobin, which is protoporphyrin plus iron basically. If there is no iron, then hemoglobin will reduce. There is mean corpuscular volume. So this is basically the volume within each RBC. If hemoglobin is reduced, then this volume is also said to reduce. And finally, there is hypochromia. So in spite of reduction of the size of RBC, if it does not fully hemoglobinize, then you get hypochromia. Let us now see how these findings change in each of the three stages of development of iron deficiency anemia. So the first stage is depletion of storage ion or negative ion balance. Here, storage form of iron is completely gone. Which means that bone marrow iron stores, serum ferritin gone, absent and low, like it is seen here. Serum TIBC, that is total ion binding capacity, free erythrocyte protoporphyrin, transferrin saturation, hemoglobin and MCV are normal, and there is no hypochromia. In the second stage, what happens is bone marrow, while forming RBCs, uses transport form of iron. So that is why, apart from the first two parameters, total ion binding capacity, free erythrocyte protoporphyrin, transferrin saturation, and hemoglobin are also abnormal. In the final and the third stage, which is iron deficiency anemia, apart from hemoglobin being less, mean corpuscular volume reduces, which means to say that RBC size first becomes less. Then, after RBC size becomes less, hemoglobin is still not being able to fill up the entire small RBC. That is when even hypochromia sets in. Once a person reaches the third stage, he'll get various clinical features. We'll just have a look into those clinical features. Firstly, there will be general features of anemia, which include weakness, fatigue, breathlessness on some exertion, palpitation, chest pain, features like edema, etc. There'll be pallor and there'll be tachycardia. So these are the general features of anemia, like what we saw in the previous class. Apart from these, some specific iron deficiency anemia features are pica. So pica is consumption of non-nutritive substances, for example mud or paint, something like that. Next is koilonychia, which is the presence of spoon-shaped nails. Then there is a tongue change known as atrophic glossitis, also called bald tongue. Then there is a syndrome associated with iron deficiency anemia called Plummer-Vinson syndrome or Patterson-Brown-Kelly syndrome. Here patients will have dysphagia, esophageal webs, iron deficiency anemia and angular cheilitis. This Plummer-Vinson syndrome is not a very common syndrome to be seen, okay? Like very less percentage of iron deficiency anemia will have this syndrome. In this slide, the top leftmost image, you are seeing spoon-shaped nails. So that is what is called koilonychia. On the right top image, you are seeing the lower conjunctiva, which is very pale. So that is basically how you examine pallor. Just below that image, you are seeing a picture of the hand where palmar creases are pale. If you look at your own palmar creases, it will be slightly darker than the rest of your palm. Here, however, it is not so. Below that image, you are seeing nail bed, which is also very white. So nail bed pallor is that sign. And the bottom left image, in that you are seeing a reddish discoloration at the angle of the mouth. So that is what is angular cheilitis. In this image, you are seeing an area of tongue has lost its papillae. It appears as if the tongue has lost its papillae. So that is what is called atrophic glossitis or bald tongue. This is an X-ray image of a barium swallow done in a patient. Here you are seeing barium is unable to pass through a portion of esophagus. So that is the reason for that is the post-cricoid web which is present there. Another slide showing the clinical features. In the first image there is pallor, in the second image spoon-shaped nails, and in the third image there is a bald tongue or atrophic glossitis. Coming to the laboratory diagnosis of iron deficiency anemia. So the first parameter that you measure is hemoglobin. Since this is an anemia, the hemoglobin level is low. Then there is mean corpuscular volume, which basically denotes the size of an RBC that is less than 80 femtoliter. Then there is mean corpuscular hemoglobin, which is less than 25 picogram. Mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration less than 27 gram per deciliter, and RDW, which is more than 15%. RDW is red cell distribution width. Reticulocyte count is either normal or low. So these reticulocytes are immediate precursors of RBCs. So from bone marrow, when erythroblasts they start maturing to ultimately give rise RBCs, immediately just before the formation of RBCs, the stage is called reticulocyte. Next, coming to the peripheral smear examination, which we do to classify the anemia based on the morphology. Here the RBCs will show variations in size and shape, which is nothing but anisopoikilocytosis. Most of the RBCs will be small and they'll have less hemoglobin, that is microcytic and hypochromic. Next we'll see the various shapes associated with iron deficiency anemia. Those shapes include pencil shape, target cells and teardrop cells. Iron does not have a very significant role in the development of either WBCs or platelets. So that is why WBCs are usually normal in iron deficiency anemia. Platelets are most of the times normal. Sometimes it can be increased in number. The impression that will be given in peripheral smear or the morphological diagnosis is microcytic hypochromic anemia. This is the peripheral smear image of an iron deficiency anemia case. The blue arrow that is pointing to a cell, so that cell is a small lymphocyte. Why have I pointed that cell? Because the size of normal RBC is the same as the size of the nucleus of a small lymphocyte. That is why. In comparison to that cell, surrounding RBCs, if you are seeing, those are smaller than the nucleus of this blue cell. Now observe the RBC which is pointed to by a yellow arrow. So clearly the size of that RBC is less than the size of the nucleus of small lymphocyte. So that is a microcyte by definition. Next, look at the color within that RBC. Only a thin rim of hemoglobin is left. Inside, if you see, central pallor is increased. Normally it should be less than 1/3. Here it is more than 2/3 even. So that is the definition of a hypochromia. So that RBC is both microcytic and hypochromic. This is another image of peripheral smear. Here the blue arrow is pointing to a microcytic hypochromic RBC and the orange arrow, orangish or reddish arrow is pointing to a cell which is elongated. So that is what is called a pencil shaped RBC. In this image, the arrow is pointing to an RBC that is shaped like a teardrop. So that is why that RBC is called a teardrop RBC. In this image, two red arrows are pointing to RBCs which look like the dartboard basically. So those are the RBCs which are called target cells, and another arrow is pointing to an elongated RBC which is nothing but the pencil shaped cell. After looking at the product, if there is any defect in the product, we have to look at the manufacturer, right? So that is the sequence we follow here. After looking at the peripheral smear, we are looking at the bone marrow examination, which is the factory. In bone marrow, since there is an anemia, the bone marrow is trying to produce more RBCs. That is why the number of RBC precursors or erythroblasts will be increased. When there is an increase in the number of erythroblasts, the number of cells in the marrow itself will be increased. So that the name given for that is hypercellular marrow. Next, coming to erythroid series. I told you number of erythroblasts will be more, right? If erythroblasts are more, then it is known as erythroid hyperplasia or hyperplastic erythroid series. In peripheral smear image, you have already seen that the size of RBCs is less. Why is the size of RBC less, or why is there microcytosis? The reason for that is because the size of the erythroblast is also small. Small erythroblasts, there is a name given for them, that is micronormoblasts. Normoblasts are normal RBC precursors, and micronormoblasts are small RBC precursors. The development of neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, even the development of lymphocytes and the development of platelets is almost normal in iron deficiency anemia. So that is why you don't see any changes in either granulopoiesis or lymphopoiesis or megakaryopoiesis. If you remember the previous slides, I had told you that iron had two storage forms. One is called hemosiderin and the second is called ferritin. The location of hemosiderin, I told you, was in the cytoplasm of the macrophages in bone marrow. There is a stain known as Pearl's stain, Perl stain. This stain will go and give a blue color to iron wherever it is found. So in a bone marrow, if you stain it with this Pearl's stain, then all the hemosiderin or the storage form of iron that is there will obtain a blue color as seen in this image. So this is an image of a normal subject having iron in his bone marrow. In this slide, the image A, that is the upper image, that is of a patient having iron in his bone marrow. If you stain the bone marrow of a patient having iron deficiency anemia, then you know that in that patient storage form of iron is completely depleted. That is why this Pearl's stain will not give any blue color reaction, in which case you will be seeing what you see in the image B. So here you can here none of the portions of the bone marrow has taken up a blue color. Coming to the biochemistry findings in iron deficiency anemia patients. So firstly, the serum iron is reduced. Obviously, this is an iron deficiency anemia, so the serum iron is reduced. Then the serum total iron binding capacity is increased. Percentage saturation of transferrin is decreased. Serum ferritin is decreased. That is to say, storage form of iron is decreased. Free erythrocyte protoporphyrin is increased. What are all the other investigations that can be done? First is stool occult blood. If a patient is suspected to have a gastrointestinal tract lesion leading to loss of his epithelial cells and blood, then you can look for that by doing this stool occult blood test. Next, you can also do an endoscopy to visualize if there are any abnormalities in the gastrointestinal tract. You can also do a small intestinal biopsy at the area of duodenum and jejunum. Then you can also do estimation of isotope labeled RBCs. This is to look for a condition known as Meckel's diverticulum. The morphological classification of anemia in cases of iron deficiency anemia is known as microcytic hypochromic type of an anemia, right? So iron deficiency anemia is the most common cause for microcytic hypochromic anemia. However, there are also some other diseases which can give rise to microcytic hypochromic anemia. So which are all those diseases? Thalassemia, anemia of chronic diseases, and sideroblastic anemia. So these are the three other causes for microcytic hypochromic type of anemia. In this image, you are seeing a type of microcytic hypochromic anemia wherein the number of target shaped RBCs are too many, right? So if you see this kind of an image, then you should suspect a disease known as thalassemia. We'll have a discussion about thalassemia in hemolytic anemia class. Some differences between the causes of iron deficiency anemia. In iron deficiency anemia, ferritin is reduced, iron is reduced, TIBC is increased, percentage saturation of transferrin is reduced. In anemia of chronic diseases, ferritin is increased, iron is reduced, TIBC is either normal or reduced, and percentage saturation of transferrin is reduced. In thalassemia minor, if you see, ferritin, iron, TIBC and percentage saturation of transferrin, these are all normal. In fact, iron can be increased in thalassemia minor. Lastly, sideroblastic anemia, ferritin is either normal or increased, iron is normal or increased, TIBC is normal, percentage saturation of transferrin is normal or increased. And bone marrow, if you do, you can rule out all these other causes, because in iron deficiency anemia, since iron is reduced, if you do a Pearl stain, then you will not see any iron. To differentiate it from anemia of chronic diseases, if you do serum ferritin, then that will be useful. Lab diagnosis of iron deficiency anemia is an important theory exam question. So just to summarize it for a bit, first you'll look at parameters like hemoglobin, MCV, MCH, MCHC, RDW. Then we'll go to peripheral smear examination, where you will be seeing a microcytic hypochromic type of an anemia. After peripheral smear examination, we'll have a look at bone marrow, where you'll be seeing erythroid hyperplasia and hypercellular marrow. If you do a Pearl stain, then there will not be any storage form of iron, that is hemosiderin. After bone marrow, we'll be doing biochemical examination, wherein you'll be seeing serum iron, ferritin, TIBC, transferrin saturation and free erythrocyte protoporphyrin. The last set of investigations will be stool occult blood, small intestinal biopsy, endoscopy and radioisotope labeled RBC for Meckel's diverticulum. In the next class, we'll be talking about vitamin B12 folic acid deficiency anemias.